Mr. Tucker did, and I second.
Okay, that's fine.
Yep.
Let it roll on.
Okay, that is passed. That brings us down to presentations, one of the best part of our meetings.
You got to do the consent agenda.
Oh, yes, I'm so sorry.
I make a motion we approve the consent agenda, absent of item 7I.
Yes.
Okay, I'll second that then. Any further discussion? If not, cast your vote.
I ain't gonna get the bail this time.
Okay, that is passed. Now, presentation time. All right, gentlemen, join me down in front. Okay, first up is the Tunstall High School volleyball team. If you would, please come on down with your coach. Brian, you come down with them. Dr. Jones, I saw you. George Henderson, Bucky, y'all please come on down. Come on, congratulations. Oh, and Willie, I'm sorry, Willie, come on down, please. Anybody else connected with Tunstall volleyball or the school board? Okay. I'd like to present to you guys and girls a certificate of excellence. The Tunstall High Trojans volleyball team had an outstanding season with an overall record of 25-2. They won the Piedmont District regular season and did so undefeated, only losing one set. They continued their streak by advancing and winning the Piedmont District tournament. They then completed at the next level in the region and entered the Region 3D runner-up, which gave them birth to the Class 3 state tournament, where they completed and lost in 5 sets to Fort Defiance in the quarterfinal game. The Lady Trojans had an amazing season with team statistics of 1,025 kills, 1,272 digs, 879 assists, 153 blocks, and 374 aces. The Pittsylvania County Board of Supervisors expresses its deepest congratulations and admiration to the Tunstall Lady Trojans volleyball team for these amazing accomplishments and wish you all the very best in the future endeavors. Congratulations. Being a 1975 graduate of Tunstall High School, I'm so proud of y'all. Thank you so much. So we're going to get a couple of pictures, but if you'd like to say something, now's your time. No? Girls?
I will say that this was an awesome team to coach. I'm actually a Gretna grad, which not everyone from Gretna would agree with that, but that's okay. I'm keeping it in the county. It was an honor to coach this group. I've known many of them since they were in the 8th grade. And have coached them all through the Tunstall program. So I'm so proud of them, and I want to thank you for this great honor.
Thank you. Girls, any of y'all wish to say anything? Anything at all? Brian, what about you, buddy?
I'm extremely proud of the students and our coaches, and the community support has been amazing. Congratulations, girl. We're so proud of you.
You got enough pictures? Okay. Dr. Jones, come on down here. Okay, once again, thank y'all so much. Appreciate it. Y'all made us proud. Thank you. Yep, stay put. Hey, Brian, thanks again. Hey, if you think I was partial to that one, would the staff of Faith Memorial Baptist Church come on down? Hey, thanks again. Pastor Lackey, it is, well, we got two of them. We got Daniel and Seth, father and son. It is such an honor to present you with this certificate of recognition. The Pittsylvania County Board of Supervisors expresses its sincere congratulations and admiration to Faith Memorial Baptist Church on its 50th year anniversary. On August the 13th, 1972, Faith Memorial Baptist Church began as a prayer group under a large oak tree at a private home in Pelham, North Carolina. The first service was just 1 week later with a congregation of 56 adults and children present. And the place of worship was a two-car garage on the Mayfield Road. In March of 1973, the property on 135 Winstead Drive was purchased and the construction of the church began in April of 1974. In an effort to meet the growth, a new church was built and dedicated on November 15th, 1987. With continued growth and blessings over the years, construction of a new facility began in March 2006, and the first worship service was held in June of 2007. Faith Memorial Baptist Church is a memorial to the faithfulness of God and to those who stepped out in faith under an old oak tree many years ago. We wish you many more years of growth and blessings. On behalf of the Board of Supervisors. Congratulations. I know you have a word or two.
We as a church, Faith Memorial, thank you for this. It's been our privilege, as you said, for the last 40 years that I've been the pastor, senior pastor, to serve our community, the Danville and Pittsylvania County area. We also, with a prayerful heart, want to continue to serve our community in the future by reaching the lost with the gospel, by having strong Bible preaching, by continuing to have ministries that meet the needs of the entire family, and also by bringing great glory to God. It is with grateful hearts that we receive this award of recognition. We thank you. And also I want to thank the Pittsylvania County Board of Supervisors for your service to our county. I know you're working to make it a better place, and I thank you. Wish you all a Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year, and I wish you God's blessings. Thank you.
Okay. Y'all stick around and get a couple of pictures. Thank y'all so much. Hey, thanks again. Y'all give them a hand. Hey, and y'all are welcome to stay or leave. Thank you. You're welcome. And we have one more, Jim Bebo and Kim Vanderhyde. Would y'all come forth, please? Who's coming? Oh, come on, Willie. I'm sorry. You just need to stay up here. This is a certificate of recognition. The Pittsylvania County Board of Supervisors expresses its sincere congratulations and admiration to the Danville, Pittsylvania Community Services on its 50-year anniversary. In the early months of 1972, a group of concerned citizens working together as the Chapter 10 Board to prepare the community for many individuals returning to the city-county community from institutional care in state facilities. In April of 1972, the City of Danville and Pittsylvania County jointly resolved to create the Chapter 10 Board for this part of Virginia. The first official meeting of this new board was on October the 26th, 1972. In the first few years, operations were simply administrative and organizational activities with just a few employees and mostly contract services. But by the late 1970s and early 1980s, the agency continued growing and providing multiple services to hundreds of individuals. Since those early years, DPCS continues to offer an array of expanding quality behavioral health, intellectual disability, and prevention services to meet the needs of the community. Thank you for your years of service and dedication to those in need. We wish you continued growth and blessings in the future. On behalf of the Pittsylvania County Board of Supervisors, thank you, Jim. Thank you. Jim, would you have a few words?
Yes, I was not prepared for this. Thank you very much. It was a surprise. We're super excited to be a part of this community and make a difference every day. We serve the city of Danville and Pittsylvania County jointly. And this last year, we served several 100,000 units of service for our community. We've grown to a staff of 300, and we really do make a difference every day in the lives of people who are struggling with disabilities. So we're appreciative of the county support, the city support, the state support, and we have two of our great board members right here with us tonight, so we appreciate that. No. Kim has a whole speech in a minute.
Okay. You know, one of my post-retirement jobs was working in community services for just shy of 3 years, and proud to say we trained over 208 police officers on how to handle the mentally ill, and it is truly an ongoing process. So thank you guys for all of what you've done. And stick around for a picture or two. Okay, thank you everyone for participating in it. I think under 8B, let's see here. What do we have next there, Kaylin?
We have Maggie Richardson here with the Health Collaborative, and she's going to present.
Okay, come on down, sir. Ma'am, I'm sorry. Maggie Richardson. Thank you. Good to have you.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
All right, well, good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Maggie Richardson, and I'm the Regional Coordinator for the Health Collaborative. And tonight, I'm here to share some of the information from our new Health Equity Report, along with our plans for how we'd like to use this information to bring people together and improve health in Pittsylvania County and the rest of our region. So for a quick bit of background on the Health Collaborative, we are a cross-sector coalition working to improve health and well-being in the Dan River region, including Pittsylvania County, Danville, as well as Caswell County, North Carolina. And our work is really focused on making improvements in the social determinants of health. And this is because we know that clinical care and what happens in the doctor's office only accounts for about 20% of the factors that influence our health outcomes. That other 80% is influenced by the conditions of our communities and what we call the social determinants. And the Health Collaborative is a bit unique because we're not a nonprofit organization or a government entity, so we do not do direct services, we don't operate programs or allocate resources. our role is really to be a convener and a facilitator and bringing people together who might not traditionally work together or might not necessarily think of their work as connected to health. But we know that when we work together in collaboration, we can do things that individual organizations can't achieve on their own. And so our health equity report is really our guiding document. And so our new report includes tons of data on health outcomes, as well as demographics, socioeconomics, education, built environment, lots of things. And so what's so useful about this report is that it drills down to census tract level. So we're not just looking at county level data, but we can actually compare different tracts within the county to one another. And that's really why we call this a health equity report, because we're able to identify places where there are differences in outcomes, and differences in outcomes between communities. And breaking up the data in this way helps us prioritize our efforts so that we know what types of strategies to implement to create the greatest impact. And so there is a lot of data in this new report, so I'm just going to share sort of a high-level overview of a few of these findings. So when it comes to health status and conditions, we found that about 1 in 7 adults in Pittsylvania County reports that they are in poor physical and or mental health. And then when it comes to chronic diseases and illnesses, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, arthritis, and diabetes are most prevalent in Danville and across the rest of the region. When it comes to cancer data, this was a really noteworthy finding. We see that the rate or incidence of cancer in Pittsylvania County is lower than the state of Virginia as a whole, but yet our mortality rate is significantly higher, meaning that in Pittsylvania County, more people who get cancer are dying from cancer. And so it's important that we have data like this to know how to create strategies to address these issues. When it comes to preventative care and screenings, looking at the senior population of people aged 65 and over, the CDC collects data on sort of a core set of clinical preventative services. And in Pittsylvania County, only about a third of seniors are up to date on this set of preventative services. Looking at these maps, we can see that the lighter colors represent areas where there's a lower prevalence and darker colors where there's a higher prevalence. You can see the distribution. And that looks similar for men in our region too. And so we heard a lot about different types of barriers and reasons that people are not accessing this care. But one of these big barriers is simply fear. We heard someone tell us, I think most people are afraid of what they're going to hear when they go to the doctor. Like when I go to the doctor, I ain't going till I have to be really bad off before I'll go. So we know how these mental barriers provide or create issues with accessing necessary care. And then again, the social determinants responsible for up to 80% of our health outcomes. And so we think it's really important to include these data points because we can't really have a conversation about health and health outcomes without acknowledging the conditions in which people are living and making decisions about their health. So we know that poverty is the #1 driver of poor health outcomes. And one person told us that a lot of people in the community, they're in survival mode. So their main issue is their day-to-day as opposed to how they're going to change something 10 to 15 years down the road. And you'll note that looking at these maps, some of the places where you see the highest prevalence of poverty are also the places where we see worst health outcomes. So, we see this pattern across our data. Lack of health insurance is another issue that we face. Despite Medicaid expansion, which significantly improved this data for folks in Virginia, we still know that there are people in the county that do not have access to health insurance. And so another person told us, I've known and worked with people who have allowed themselves to become really, really sick or in need. And the reason they didn't seek services was because they didn't know or think they could seek the service because they didn't have insurance. And so we find that if people don't have access to insurance, they almost basically don't have access to health care. Transportation is one of the biggest barriers that we hear about. One person, I think, summed it up really well when they said transportation is just in and of itself a barrier for everything. Whether it's getting to work, getting to the doctor, getting to the store, transportation is a barrier. And I think that we sometimes assume that people that live in rural communities, everybody must have access to a car. But looking at this data, we see that that's just not the case, especially looking around the Gretna and Hurt areas. Anywhere from 6 to 14% of households there don't have access to a vehicle, and so you can understand how that would create real barriers to accessing healthcare and other necessary services. Food insecurity is another challenge. About 12% of the population in the county is food insecure, and just under 19% of children are experiencing food insecurity. And among that population of food insecure residents, only 59% of them are below the SNAP threshold, meaning that about 40% of people are making too much money, that they're not eligible for nutrition assistance benefits, but they're not making enough money to be able to afford enough healthy food. And so in Pittsylvania County, more so than Danville and Caswell, we see a really large gap there. And then looking at this sort of distributed geographically on the map, these areas in purple are what the USDA classifies as low income and low food access. So places where there's a large population of low income residents that are also very distant from grocery stores or places where they can purchase fresh food. Internet access, I know, is something that we talk a lot about in the county. You can see the distribution, the wide distribution of people who have internet access. And we know, especially with COVID, how this creates real gaps in information and awareness and access to things like telehealth. So, something that we continue to think about and the impact it has on people's health and well-being. And social connection, another thing that I think COVID helped really demonstrate the link between our ability to gather and be with people and how that affects our health and well-being. And so in our community survey, we asked people to tell us how much they agree or disagree with statements about this community is a place where people get together to do things for the community. It's welcoming to people from different backgrounds and cultures, and it's a place where neighbors look out for one another. And we see that people generally agree with that, but we still have a significant number of respondents who either disagreed or weren't quite sure. And so we know that there's always more work to do there, and the good thing is that when we work to improve social connections, we're also improving health. And so our full report is over 400 pages, so there is a ton of data here. If you're writing a grant or you want to really do a deep dive in some of this information, that information is there for you. But to make things a little more accessible and convenient, we also have a shorter executive summary and an online story map, which is really easy. You scroll through. It gives sort of the major highlights and key findings. And it also includes these interactive maps where you can click on the different census tracts and find even more detailed information and data. So we really encourage people to explore that. And it's linked here in this slideshow, but it's also on our Health Collaborative website. And so since we released this report, we've been doing a lot of outreach and engagement work trying to get this information out to communities and get some feedback about how we should move forward. So we started in July and August with a series of community conversations where we held meetings in communities across the region. And we did what we called a data walk activity where folks could walk through, look at some of the data and the maps on these big poster boards. And then we had group discussion around what surprised people, what's new, what validates their own experience, and what should we prioritize and what should we be thinking about as we move forward. We also were able to hire a team of community ambassadors who continue to go out and have these conversations in their communities. We know that not everybody is comfortable or able to show up to a community meeting like this, and so we didn't want that to be a barrier to this process. And so our community ambassadors have been amazing in really connecting with folks in their churches, with their colleagues, in their neighborhoods, out at community events. So I think they've really, really reached a lot of residents and been able to bring that feedback back to us as well. So as we collected all of this feedback, we were able to sort of categorize it into several different themes. So this is what we heard from folks across the region, and this is a big list. But some of the things I think that were most, we heard a lot about from people in Pittsylvania County were issues of housing related to access, quality, and affordability, transportation, again, access to healthy and affordable foods and addressing food deserts. Heard a lot about wanting greater access to recreation. There's been some amazing development of new parks and outdoor spaces, and how can we connect even more people to those opportunities, especially youth. And then there was quite a few comments around environmental quality and people concerned about landfills or other types of polluting industries. They were worried about the impact of those things on their health. We also heard from a lot of residents that there's this interest in building new skills around leadership, around how they work with organizations and local government, understanding the impact of policy on their everyday lives and how they can advocate for policies that make a difference in their lives and their communities. And then we also heard a lot about people really wanting more opportunities to gather, connect, build relationships. I think another thing that we didn't realize how important it was to us until we weren't able to do it much during the pandemic. And so these are some of the things that we're going to be working on together as a collaborative. And so, thinking about this process as a whole, we released our new report with tons of data. We engaged the community, gathered feedback through our community conversations and the work of the community ambassadors. And now we're using all of that information to update our Health for All action plan for the region. And so we had a plan that was developed in 2016. Obviously, a lot has changed since then. We've learned a lot, and we have a lot more people engaged in this work. And so it's time for an update. In terms of our immediate next steps, we'll be releasing a draft of that plan at our Health Summit on January 27th. And that's a community event open to anyone, totally free. Part of the event will allow residents and participants to think about some of those strategies and prioritize, what would make the most difference in their community, what do they want to work on. We're also going to have sort of a separate activity and discussion specifically for policymakers, so we hope that all of you can join us that day for that as well. And from there, we'll be working with our chapters to develop work plans, thinking about really how we take these strategies and operationalize them and really start to take action in our communities. And our Pittsylvania County chapter is led by Ms. Ann Cassida, who's done an amazing job of bringing people together and really making progress on a lot of this work. And so if folks are interested in being part of that, we'd really love to have you. So with that, I'll stop there, and I appreciate your time, and I'll just say we recognize the important role that all of you play in supporting health and well-being and community, and so hope that we can work together going forward on some of this work.
Any questions? Anyway, thank you, Maggie, for all that you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Jim Bebo and Kim Vanderhyde, I think you guys are up next.
Thank you. Chairman Ingram, members of the board, Mr. Hunt, and staff, you all know me as Kim Vanderhyde, Pittsylvania County Finance Director, but tonight I come to you as the member and current chair of the Danville, Pennsylvania Community Services Board of Directors. It is with great pleasure that I present to you DPCS's annual report for fiscal year 2022, and I do believe you have a copy of that at each of your seats tonight. This year's theme is 50 Years of Unlocking Potential. And as Mr. Ingram shared with you earlier, as he so eloquently shared with you about DPCS, we were created in 1972. So this is our 50th year, and it has been 1 year of celebration. There's been much to be thankful for to have this agency in our community. And so on October the 26th, 2022, DPCS celebrated its 50th year with a giant birthday party. And those gift bags that are before you are from that event. And we wanted to give one to each of you as a thank you for your continued support of the agency. As he mentioned earlier, in the first few years, the agency's primary responsibility was just operations, administrative, contractual, and organizational, and there were really no employees, and the services were mostly contracted out. But by the late 1970s, multiple services were being provided to hundreds of individuals. The name of the agency changed several times in these 50 years, and it finally landed on the all-inclusive Danville, Pittsylvania Community Services in 1996. Since those early years, it has been the agency's desire to continue to offer an ever-expanding array of quality behavioral health, intellectual disability, and prevention services to meet all the needs of our community, which is quite a task for the 300-plus employees that are there at the agency. Consistency in community leadership has helped facilitate that growth, beginning with the wisdom of the Board of Supervisors and City Council creating one organization in 1972 to efficiently serve the region. And these last 50 years, the local governments have appointed hundreds of volunteer board members who have guided DPCS as the political subdivision and gatekeeper of publicly funded services. Looking beyond the top level of local elected officials and appointed board members, agency operations would not be possible without the thousands of employees who have worked at the agency since 1970. Starting with less than a handful of staff in those early years, DPCS has grown to that workforce of 300 compassionate professionals today. Having been a board member since 2016, I can speak firsthand about DPCS's good work for some of our most vulnerable citizens. DPCS is certainly a crown jewel for local behavioral health and developmental services and prevention for early intervention, making a difference in our community for those in need. Throughout our annual report, you will see historical references from operations as the community system of care has expanded, grown, and enhanced the services offered to the community. This is done in comparison to this, our 50th year of operations. You will also see quotes from staff, both current and retired, addressing their time at DPCS as they experienced and facilitated the growth of the agencies. These historical facts about people, services, and staff convey how deeply rooted DPCS services are for everyone residing in our community, and they provide an opportunity for the Board of Directors to recognize an outstanding team of service providers and support staff that have served thousands and thousands of people in the last 50 years. This report before you tonight is an opportunity to highlight for the Board of Supervisors and local citizens all of the activities of DPCS and what they're involved in our community. DPCS provided more than 143,000 distinct units of service last year, reaching more than 14,000 individuals in our clinical treatment and prevention outreach programs and campaigns. Currently operating approximately 50 unique programs, DPCS adapts and changes services across its developmental services, behavioral health, and prevention services divisions for adults and children in order to meet community needs from the past, today, and tomorrow. On behalf of our 15-member volunteer board of directors and agency staff, it is a privilege to share this 50th anniversary report and information with you tonight. In closing, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you all for tonight's recognition, as well as for appointing 8 citizens from the county to serve on this DPCS board, one of which is Mr. Willie Fitzgerald, who came up earlier. And I do want to recognize Mr. Bob Warren, who served on DPCS, also served as chair. And of course, Jim is here tonight. If you all have any questions for him about the report, I'm sure he can answer all of them. But it's certainly our honor and pleasure to serve the community in this capacity, and we appreciate the confidence and ongoing support from this board. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you, Kim. Jim, you have anything you want to say?
No, just thank you for your continued support. I want to say something real quick, just because I can. I was before the board recently to ask for some support for a new facility for crisis services. Wanted to let the board know that we have closed on that building. We've begun the process to do renovations, and in tandem with the governor's recent announcement of their major focus at the state level to improve our system of care. Lots of good things coming in the next 50 years. just started. And so we appreciate the county.
Jim, y'all do some phenomenal work. Thank you so much.
We appreciate
y'all
it.
take
Thank you.
care. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, D, I think this is you, Justin. Come on down, sir, and you want to bring your crew with you? Come on down.
So I'm just going to say a couple words, and then I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Myers, my recreation program assistant. She's going to be the one heading up the Youth Commission. But as many of you know that have been on the board previously, and some may not know, we have, before the pandemic, we had the Youth Commission that was going for many years of all of our high schools or high school age kids from 9th to 12th grade. And we're happy to say that we now finally have that back up and going and plan to continue that. And we're very excited for it. I'm excited for this group, and I'm going to let Ms. Myers take it over.
Thank you. Welcome, Ms. Myers.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Kelsey Myers, the Recreation Program Assistant for Pittsylvania County Parks and Recreation, and serve as Chairman of the Pittsylvania County Youth Commission. The primary mission of our Youth Commission is to act as a voice for the Pittsylvania County youth and serve as a link between students, elected county officials, and the Board of Supervisors. Our Youth Commission also sponsors various service projects throughout the year and helps organize and publicize countywide high school social events to help build a sense of community among all students living in Pittsylvania County. As Chairman of the Youth Commission, I would like to introduce our 2022 to 2023 members. From Tunstall High School, we have Lyra Slattery, 12th grade, Ella Bray, 9th grade, Brady Slattery, 10th grade. From Dry Fork Christian School, we have Kaylee Johnson, 12th grade, Gracie Johnson, 10th grade. And from Dan River High School, we have Amari White, 10th grade. And Chatham High School, we have Shamaria Jones, 9th grade. Thank you.
Great. Thank y'all so much for coming. Good job. Yes, sir. Mr. Warren. Hey, y'all hold up a second.
Are you still open for folks to join?
Yes, certainly.
I just noticed, I see Mr. Doss back there and Mr. Dalton down here. We don't have anybody on here from the northern end of the county.
That's right.
Y'all need to get out there and encourage those folks to come see if they can't join and participate. We need to hear what our youth want to say up there. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Good. Hey, thanks again. Appreciate that. Okay, Kaylin, any more presentations? Thank you. We're down to item 9, hearing of the citizens. Each person addressing the board under hearing of the citizens shall be a resident or landowner of the county or the registered agent of such resident or landowner. Each person shall step up, give his or her name and district in an audible tone of voice for the record, and unless further time is granted by the chairman, shall limit his or her address to 3 minutes. No person shall be permitted to address the board more than once during hearing of the citizens. All remarks shall be addressed to the board as a body and not to any individual member thereof. Hearing of the citizens shall last for a maximum of 45 minutes. Any individual that is signed up to speak during said section who does not get the opportunity to do so because of the aforementioned time limit shall be given speaking priority at the next board meeting. Absent chairman's approval, no person shall be able to speak who has not signed up. Mr. McCluster, who do we have tonight?
Marie Salzer.
Who's that?
Marie Salzer.
Marie, come on down. Welcome, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Marie Salzer. I live at 397 Worley Court for 42 years. I live on a gravel road, and it connects to Rock School Road and 29. People go up and down the road all the time. Well, now I had a picture. I have erosion that is happening, and we need help. Me and my husband has been up here, I couldn't count the times, but we definitely need help on our road. If anything that we can do to get it done, please tell me. I don't know what else to do. I keep coming here, and Bob Good sent me an email, and he was coming to Chatham. So I called the number to sign up. Well, the girl said, well, he's not coming, that his aides were going to come. So I tried to set up an appointment, and she asked me what I want, and I told her I needed help on my road. So anyway, I didn't hear anything back, so I called again yesterday, and I spoke to a Sandy Drew about my road, and she's going to open up a case. But we are in desperate need of help on our road, and I don't know what else to do to get the help. If you have any suggestions, I will take it.
What district are you in?
She's in Stanton. She's in my district.
Okay, I suggest sometime later on talk with Mr. Dudley, and he'll help you.
Yeah, we have, go ahead. I'm sorry, I'm going to take away from your time.
I have been trying to get in touch with Mr. Dudley for 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
I also have sent him an email. I could not get in touch with him. That's why I've been trying to do other things. I even sent an email to Mr. Youngkin, see if he could help me. I need help. I don't know what else to do. Is it anything that y'all can do to help me on our road? It's really roading away at one point.
Mr. Chairman, I know this, Mr. Chairman, I know this is not a question and answer, but I've given you my card tonight. You're going to call me tomorrow.
Yes.
And I'm going to get with VDOT, and I'm going to help you any way we can, okay?
Okay.
That's my commitment to you.
Okay, Mr. Hunt.
All right,
Okay.
thanks.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for coming. We
Thank you.
understand. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. All right, who's next, Kayla?
Jim Scares.
Mr. Scares, come on down.
My name is Jim Scares, and I live in the Westover District. To start with tonight, I would like to bring attention to the rules for hearing of the citizens as they were read earlier. Nowhere in those rules does it state that we could not criticize the actions of this board or its members. That is exactly the purpose of this hearing of the citizens, to exercise our freedom of speech and to petition our elected officials with our concerns about how they are conducting the people's business. Freedom of speech and the right to petition our elected officials are two tenets of the First Amendment. At last month's meeting, I was unceremoniously denied those rights, not because I broke the rules, but because someone on this board didn't want to hear what I had to say about them catering to their special interest group. In last month's meeting, my wife mentioned this board playing politics. I will give you a perfect example of that. In September, a motion was made, voted on, and denied that would have given almost $100,000 additional taxpayer dollars to the local fire and rescue agencies. The item was again placed on the agenda in November, after the appointment of a new board member to take advantage of that swing vote that has been spoken of. This same matter can also stand as an example of what my wife meant when she mentioned personal agendas and putting special interest groups before the good of the citizens. Several months ago, when the topic of the lack of financial accountability concerning the fire and rescue agencies was brought up, a big deal was made by the leadership of this board, asking several county department heads if any fire and rescue agency was or ever had been under investigation for financial improprieties. After rewatching that meeting, I realized that those department heads didn't answer that question one way or the other, but the leadership of this board answered no, they had not. I would like to ask this board if they are still willing to stand behind that no answer. My wife has a 36-year background in the financial services industry. We have a different viewpoint regarding fiscal responsibility. We cannot understand how, with a looming recession, all-time high inflation, and being only 5 months into the county's fiscal year, this could ever be put on the agenda to be voted on again, except the board continues to play politics at the expense of the citizens. If I were allowed to address each supervisor individually, I would have to ask, if you have extra money in your household budget, would you give it away in the current economic environment, or would you hang on to it in case of an emergency? Well, my guess would be that 3 out of 7 would hang on to it. The same 3 that used rational thinking and voted on behalf of the county taxpayers. In Proverbs chapter 6, verse 6, we are advised to consider the ways of the ant and be wise. The ant stores up its provisions in lean times and gathers its need at time of harvest. And the writer Solomon implies it is irresponsible to do otherwise. In closing, I would like to encourage all supervisors, not just 3 of you, to treat the taxpayers' money like it is their own. Thank you.
All right, Caitlin, who we have next?
John Zielinski.
Good evening, sir.
ECD will be right back.
Do it.
John Zielinski, Chatham, Blair's district. One of the problems that we have, or I had at least, is trying to find answers in Pennsylvania County. The lady just before, had the same problem also. Went down to the administration building, there was nobody there to answer a question. Went over to the election office, there was nobody there to ask a question. I called the main number of Pennsylvania County, got a recording, gave her my name, phone number, please call me back so I can, get to the right person. Never heard from them. Called the administration building, same thing. Got a recording, left my name, left my phone number, nobody ever called me back. Called the clerk, talked to her, I'm not sure who I talked to. Gave her my name, my phone number, they never called me back. Called another clerk, I forget whose name, I think it's David something. Left my name, phone number, he called me back 7 days later. And he couldn't answer my question. The other problem we have, I think one thing that would be nice is to have a quarterly, I'm trying to think of the right word now. Not fire chat or whatever?
Like a town hall meeting?
Yeah, town hall meeting would be ideal. And to address county issues, not streets, not dogs or anything like that. And also be able to tout some of your achievements. Because quite honestly, I'm not sure what you guys have done for the last 12 months. My next question is, what are you going to do for the next 12 months? And how do you intend to achieve that? Now also, I'm the one that came up with the idea of, and I thought it was a great idea, the Board of Supervisors Rules and Procedures. I'm the one that came up with adding a sentence to paragraph 1.1, and that's term limits. Supervisors cannot hold office for more than 2 terms. A supervisor can't hold an additional term if he is running unopposed. So I'm looking for term limits for the supervisors. It starts someplace. Last thing I want to find or see here is another 30 years, in the job like we have in Congress right now. The other one is rules that it's laid out here. In paragraph 4.2, no supervisor can be appointed to more than 5 committees. When I look at a committee, the other thing that we see, I get to see at least, is the Fire and Rescue Committee, right? And what could be done for the Fire and Rescue Committee. They're out there every day, and they're really supporting us quite well. But there's things I think that the county can do for them. Okay, one of the things is use their purchasing department. They're saying that they're paying $7,000 for loadout equipment or whatever, up from $6,000. Well, if you can consolidate that, opposed to buying 1 unit or 2 unit per fire department and get them collectively together and maybe go out and, buy or bid on 25 units as an example. The other thing is, with the Fire and Rescue, and I'm amazed, by listening to their thing, where they could be out for 10, 12 hours with somebody in their ambulance, right? Going from here, going to there, da-da-da-da. And they're working full-time jobs, and they're all committees. And I know I'm running over here, but another thing that the county can do, the Board of Supervisors, what happens when they're out for 12 hours, ambulance comes back, those people are tired, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. Right? There's no fuel in the ambulance. Why don't we take a hard look at putting a fuel depot at their particular location, 500, 1,000 gallon, location, And doing so as the county, right, because you're paying for the fuel, all right? And now you can pay, now you can go out with a contract and buy it in bulk. You know, put a contract out for 15,000 gallons or whatever it is, and still charge it back to the fire departments. Don't get me wrong on that either. But the thing is, what can we do to make fire and rescue, what can we make it easier for them? Because I sure hate to call them up for an emergency only to find out that the ambulance doesn't have enough fuel to get there because they've been out all night. You know, so I guess basically what can we do? You know, and we should be able to do this for every committee that you guys, that you people are on. And by the way, I know nobody here, never talked to anybody. The only communication I've ever had was you sent back that you got my email that I sent to Kaylin.
Yes, sir.
And that's the only communication I have. So I got no animosity with anybody.
Well, we'll
particularly when it
try,
comes
we'll
to
try
this.
to work on that. You have some good ideas. What district do you live in?
Chatham Blair's.
Okay. I'd suggest either talking to Mr. Hunt, Mr. Warren, and
Well, let me
get
tell
you
you-
caught up on some stuff. But
Let me tell you what happened on that. Again, I know I'm over time. I sent an email out. I sent an email out to all the supervisors back in December. Do you know how many I heard back from? 0. And 4 of the supervisors are here today. And I heard from 0. And as the lady before me saying, hey, she tried to get a hold of a supervisor and nobody called back.
go ahead.
I'm gonna answer that. If anybody would have read or checked the websites, the county has been experiencing significant email and phone trafficking problems for at least 2 months. I was without any email correspondence or phone for, where's Kevin? About 6 weeks, Kevin?
Well, this,
So,
I'm
I mean-
talking about last December when I emailed you. Did you have it last December? It's not a question and answer time. The other thing that's really quick, and I know I'm really over on this one.
Mr. Chairman.
He needs to close them out.
Yeah,
It's over
I'll-
the time. We're over.
I'll close
Yeah,
out.
yes, so listen, we appreciate you coming tonight. Take my offer up and contact Mr. Hunt, talk privately with Mr. Warren. We're always open to good ideas and making things better, so thank you for coming.
I got one last question. I got a bill that shows city tax. Do we get city tax from Zito?
Thank you for coming, sir. Have a good Christmas. Anyone else, Kaylin?
Vanessa Scarce.
Ms. Scarce.
Allow him to rattle on.
Good evening. My name is Vanessa Scarce, and I live in the Westover District. We are at a sad time in history when correcting something printed in the newspaper as an example for why citizens should participate in county governance becomes an attack. Attack is defined as to take aggressive action against with weapons and armed force, act against someone or something aggressively in an attempt to injure or kill, criticize or oppose fiercely and publicly. Wow. I suppose that I should conclude that expecting truth in journalism in this day and age is an unrealistic expectation. If I seemed aggressive or fierce in any way while I was speaking last month, I'm sure that it was due to the stress that I was feeling after watching my husband being removed from this room during the hearing of the citizens. Talk about being berated, humiliated, and shall I say, attacked? No rules were broken, yet he was denied his right to speak and removed. Now more than ever, I want to encourage citizens to get involved. Who would have ever thought that our constitutional rights would be challenged locally? I want to share 2 things I've learned in 2022 participating. Number 1, if you are invited here to speak, your right to do so will be defended. However, if you are not on the right guest list, you may be denied your freedom of speech. Number 2, if you are a law-abiding citizen who feels that it is a privilege to earn a concealed weapons carry permit, like myself. You might lose that privilege if your occupation does not require you to carry, or even if your past occupation. What hypocrisy. I have in my hand a copy of the Constitution. It contains the rights given to me just by being a citizen of the greatest country that is on this planet. Is it going to take the Fourth Amendment being challenged in Pittsylvania County for citizens to wake up and get involved? How many even know what your constitutional rights are? I hope to have a copy of this by the next meeting, one to give to everybody here. We, as Americans, should know our rights according to the Constitution. We should not take them lightly, since so many died that we could have these rights. The question is, how many are still willing to stand up and defend the rights by speaking out against the tyranny, not just on the national level, but now locally? I wish I had copies of the Constitution for you tonight because it would be a great Christmas present. The only gift that would be better would be the Bible. But if you don't read it, it's meaningless. There is only one thing that I deem more important than being an American, and it is being a follower of Jesus. I did not say being a Christian because there are too many ways to define that. My prayer for each of you is that you truly know Jesus and the reason for the season. He gives me hope that 2023 will be a better year. Resolve to do your part to make it better for all citizens. Thank you, and Merry Christmas.
Caitlin, do we have anyone else?
That's all, Mr. Chairman.
That's all. Okay, thank you. That brings us down to public hearings, rezoning public hearings. Pursuant to Article 6, Division 6 of the Pittsylvania County Zoning Ordinance, the Pittsylvania County Board of Supervisors have been empowered to hear and decide specific zoning issues and zoning map changes in support of said ordinance. In accomplishing this important task, the board is responsible for promoting health, safety, and general public welfare of the citizens of Pittsylvania County. The board must ensure that all of its decisions and regulations be directed to these goals and that each be consistent with the environment, the comprehensive plan, and in the best interest of Pittsylvania County, its citizens, and its prosperity. That brings us down to case number 1, public hearing case R22-033. I open a public hearing at 8 p.m. Ms. Ragsdale.
Case R-22-033, Roger and Lisa Pleasant have petitioned to rezone 1.69 acres located on State Road 853 Inman Drive in the Tunstall Election District from R1 Residential Suburban Subdivision District to A1 Agricultural District to allow the property to be consolidated with an adjacent property zoned A1. On November 1st, 2022, the Planning Commission recommended by a 6-0 vote with no opposition that the petitioner's request be granted. Once the property is rezoned to A1, all uses listed under Section 35-178 are permitted. The staff summary is enclosed in the board packet. Mr. Chairman, I do not believe that Mr. Pleasant is here, but I...
Yes, they are. Roger
Sorry,
and Lisa
I missed
are
them.
here.
Mr. Pleasant is here to represent the petition.
Yeah. Roger, you or Lisa want to speak? You don't have to if you don't want to. All right, that's good. I'd like to make a motion, case number R22-033, to approve the rezoning of 1.69 acres from R1 Residential Suburban Subdivision District to A1 Agricultural District to allow property lines to be adjusted.
Second.
Thank you, sir. Any further discussion? If not, cast your vote, gentlemen.
Mr. Ingram.
Roger and Lisa, I came by and looked, and we're good to go.
Mr. Ingram, can
Yes,
you
ma'am.
close that public hearing?
And I'm going to close it at 8:01 p.m. Thank you. Okay, your property's been rezoned. Thank y'all for coming. You can stay if you like. Have a good Christmas. Public hearing case R22-34. Ms. Ragsdale, open a public hearing at 8:01 p.m.
Case R-22-034, John and Rosemary Martin have petitioned to rezone 0.339 acres located on Cane Creek Parkway and and Barber Road in the Dane River Election District from M1 Industrial District Light Industry to R1 Residential Suburban Subdivision District to allow the property to be consolidated with an adjacent property zoned R1. On November 1st, 2022, the Planning Commission recommended by a 6-0 vote with no opposition that the petitioner's request be granted. Once the property is rezoned to R1, all uses listed under Section 35-222 are permitted. The staff summary is enclosed in the board packet. Mr. Chairman, John Martin is here to represent the petition.
Okay, would y'all like to come in and speak? No. You're good, okay. All right, I'll close the public hearing at 8:02 p.m. Mr. Cheshire?
Yes, sir. In case R-22034, I make a motion to approve the rezoning of .339 acres from M1 Industrial District Light Industry to R1 Residential Suburban Subdivision District to allow property lines to be adjusted.
I'll second that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Not sure which one was second, just,
We can arm wrestle it.
okay, go right ahead. Gentlemen, cast your vote.
You got it, Bob? I got it. Just don't let the bell get you.
Mr. Martin, your property's been rezoned. Thank you for coming, sir. Case number 3, this is R22-035. Ms. Ragsdale, open the public hearing at 8:03 p.m.
Case R-22-035, Christy Hicks has petitioned to rezone 7.56 acres located on State Road 724 Mill Creek Road in the Westover Election District from R1 Residential Suburban Subdivision District to A1 Agricultural District to allow for a summer camp. On November 1st, 2022, the Planning Commission recommended by a 6-0 vote with no opposition that the petitioner's request be granted. Once the property is rezoned to A1, all uses listed under Section 35-178 are permitted. The staff summary is enclosed in the board packet. Mr. Chairman, Christy Hicks is here to represent the petition.
Would you like to speak, Ms. Hicks? I don't. Gentlemen, anybody have any questions?
No, sir.
Okay. I will close the public hearing at 8:04 p.m. And what's your pleasure there, Mr. Scarce?
I'd like to make a motion in case R-22-035. I make a motion to approve the rezoning of 2 parcels totaling 7.56 acres from R1 Residential Suburban Subdivision District to A1 Agricultural District to allow the property to be used for a summer camp.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. Any further discussion? If not, cast your vote. And thank you for coming. Your property's been rezoned. All righty, that brings us down to other public hearings. Each person addressing the board under a public hearing shall step up, give his or her name and district and/or his or her place of residency for non-county citizens in an audible tone of voice for the record, and unless further time is granted by the chairman, shall limit his or her address to 3 minutes. Speakers for a group shall be limited to 10 minutes. Speakers shall conclude their remarks at that time unless the consent of the board is affirmatively given to extend the speaker's allotted time. Absent chairman's approval, no person shall be able to speak who is not signed up. Number 1, Ms. Vanderhyde, this is you. Now I'll open this public hearing at 8:06.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So tonight's public hearing is being held, typically what we do is we'll look at mid-year adjustments that need to be made, and if they exceed 1% of your budget, then a public hearing that has been advertised in a paper that has normal circulation in the county must be held before we can make said amendments. So I just wanted to do a high-level overview of those amendments. We were going to do that at work session this afternoon, so I'm going to be very quick, and so if we will go through these slides, and that's why I gave you a copy, just so that you have that. Maybe it was on. So of course, this was the public hearing notice, so these amendments would take your budget from the current amount of $261,134,849.73 to a total of $267,278,10.07. and that was advertised in the Star Tribune. So I'm going to go by sections. So the first adjustments will be made to the general fund. They total $27,462.05, and they include a contract management software of $11,915.05, contributions that were made for the Halloween trunk or treat that the sheriff held back in October of $15,397, and then Project Lifesaver is also contributions that are made to the sheriff's office for that program. That was $150. The next items are for grants. We received a grant from the John Henry Eldridge Jr. grant, and that is a grant for books for our library. That was $2,500. And this is a revisit of what you all approved a couple of months ago for the DPCS Crisis Center, in a total of $100,000. At that time, we were not sure we would be able to use opioid settlement money, but we did find out later that we could. So this is just revisiting that to make sure we appropriate those funds appropriately. Then DSS adjustments, they had an insurance claim of $23,700, and that has been used to offset the purchase of a new vehicle. Our mid-year adjustments for the Workforce Investment Board is not very much. It's $427.79, and they were expenditure refunds that we received for the summer intern program, and it was also an insurance refund. Our Industrial Development Fund has a total of $2.9 million that needs to be added to the budget. One item was expenditure refund that we received from the Regional Industrial Facilities Authority, and that was for 50% of the cost of prospect visits to the Berry Hill mega site, and that was $48,252.92. For the Southern Virginia Multimodal Park, we had site grading, and it was a Tobacco Commission grant of $1.2 million. We received a grant, as well as Danville received a grant, and their portion of the grant was $742,875. And so our local match, we already had budgeted. So this is just to make you all aware. That's why it's not in your total. It's already in your budget. It's just in the economic industrial incentives line item, and it needs to go to the Southern Virginia Multimodal Site Grading Project line item. And then Danville's local match will be a revenue from Danville, so that's $875,078. So that's where the $2,928,406.92 comes from. Then the Industrial Development Fund, these are cyclical funds, so that fund is used when we received Governor Opportunity Funds or Tobacco Opportunity Funds. The money comes in and it goes right out to the company, so it's cyclical. And for some reason, there has been an unused balance in that fund since the beginning of time, and it totals $60,663.58. So I thought at this time it was appropriate to move it over to our industrial incentives and our regular industrial development fund, because these funds will just always be there and never be spent. The next item is for our water and sewer fund adjustments, and this is basically for the EDA public water grant that we received. That grant was for $2.4 million, and our portion of that grant was $600,000. So we just have to appropriate those funds. So the majority of this money, of course, is federal money, and then our local share will come from capital reserve and the water and sewer fund. And so this is just a recap of all those adjustments that I just went through. So the total mid-year budget adjustment is $6,143,160.34. And then the transfer, we would also need you all to approve that move from where it currently resides in the industrial incentives line item to the Southern Virginia Multimodal Grading Project. And I'm here if you have any questions.
Gentlemen, any questions? Mr. Warren, do you have one? Okay, got you. Is there anyone signed up to speak?
No, sir.
Okay, I'm going to close that at 8:11 p.m. Do we?
What's that?
We don't need a motion on that, do we?
Yes?
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Okay,
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
thank you. Gentlemen, cast your vote if you'll have questions.
Thank you, Kim. Good job.
Okay, that is passed. Now, this is the school state sales tax referendum ordinance. Ms. Van Hyden.
So I think this is the last step that we need to satisfy.
Opening this up at 8:12, by the
Okay.
way.
This is the last step that we need in order to satisfy the requirements of the 1% sales tax referendum that was passed back in November. As part of the Code of Virginia, it states that you all shall pass an ordinance before we're able to collect said tax, and then after this this ordinance is passed, then 120 days after the passing of this will be when we can commence. But I did find out just recently that the tax department requires that the 120 days be at the beginning of a quarter. So our tax will begin collection July 1st of 2023 will be when it starts. So what we have done, we've provided the section in our county code in Chapter 6. There are 3 sections to this that states the collection of this tax, the rate, and then the expiration date. So we will start on July 1st, 2023. It will run through February 15th, 2042. Section 3.3 speaks to the administration and collection of this tax. So it will be collected by the tax commissioner, as is all of our sales tax. It will go to the state where it is segregated. So we will receive our 1% that we normally get at one time during the month, and then we will get that 1% as a separate tax altogether. These funds, once it comes to the county, will be placed in a fund completely all to itself, and that's where we will receive the revenues as well as expend it for the renovation projects that we will be taking care of. We also plan to have a dashboard on our Facebook page, on our county's website, so that all of our citizens will know where we are, how much money we've collected, and where these funds are being distributed for these projects. The last section that we are including in tonight's public hearing is on the school construction use, the tax levy rate, and that also talks about the expiration as well again. So that is included as part of your county code, Chapter 6, and it will meet the requirement of the ordinance that they're requiring at the state.
Thank you. Anyone else signed up to speak?
No, sir.
All right. I'd like to make a motion to approve the additions of PPC Section 6-3.2, 6.3.3, 6-3.4, and 6-3.5 as attached and presented to the county code. What about a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, sir. Any further discussion?
I have some.
Go ahead, Mr. Warren.
Ms. Vanderhyde, according to what you said, we technically could not even have addressed this tonight. From what you found out, we could have addressed it in February as long as we gave 120 days before July.
No, tonight, the clock starts ticking after you pass this ordinance.
Okay, 120
So
days.
it's 120 days. So technically,
March,
I
April,
was thinking
May, June.
we could have actually passed it tonight. We could have started May 1, but it's not at the beginning of a quarter.
That's what I'm saying.
So then you had to move it to, so you could have waited
We could have waited till
a little
February.
bit long, yeah. But see, at the time that we set all this in motion, I did not know that. We had actually sent the public hearing notice, the whole 9 yards. The tax department contacted us to see when we would start collecting. And at that time, I told him, based on what the code said, 120 days would be May 1, so we were trying to maximize on how much money we could get to start collecting. So that's why.
It was a curiosity question. I've supported it all
Absolutely.
along, so I just had a curiosity question, and
so just so.
I have the same concerns that I expressed at the work session about showing each other proper respect from the board standpoints. And so I'm obviously going to support this. I've supported the schools my entire life, so I will certainly continue to do that.
And just as a matter of note, I will let you know that when we start collecting, we probably won't see anything from this tax until September. The way it works is usually the state is about 2 months behind in getting us those payments. So just so you know, we're going to be curious, how much money are we going to make? Because we really don't know how much we can borrow to do what we need to do until we actually see those first few payments come in. So just wanted to let you know that.
And to the point, we will be the ones that have to borrow the money. We will be the ones that will be responsible for paying it back with taxpayer dollars.
Yes.
Good, thank you.
Anyone else? Do it now.
Close that public hearing.
Close at 8:17 p.m.? Yep. Anyone else? Okay. All right, who seconded it? Okay.
Mr. Tucker, second.
Okay, that has passed. That brings us down to item 11, unfinished business. Is there any? Under new business, item 12, potential future jail name and discussion. I had this added to the agenda because I thought this would be a pretty good time to have this discussion. I was hired by Sheriff Taylor McGregor on April the 1st of 1979, and I worked for the county for 30 years prior to my retirement in 2009. And when I came to work, the old jail had been closed down because the state and the federal government says either fix it or we'll close it. And the Board of Supervisors rolled the dice and they closed it. And so I can't tell you the number of times that I had to take a prisoner, whether a transport or someone arrested, all over the state. I took a DUI to Virginia Beach one Saturday, and he was sober by the time we got down there, and the magistrate said, take him back home. And that was a 4.5-hour trip. So I truly understand the importance of not only having a local jail, but having a good jail that offers what the sheriff's office need by way of space and accommodations. So having said that, it is on the horizon, as many of you probably know. And I wanted to be on record to recommend that once we start actual negotiating with whomever to build a new jail, that it be named in honor of the late Sheriff Taylor E. McGregor Sr., and that it would be called the Taylor E. McGregor Sr. Adult Correctional Facility. And that would be my motion. Could I have a second, please?
With all due respect, I could second that motion.
Okay, go ahead.
But here's the problem we're going to have, and because I knew Mr. Taylor McGregor very well and found him to be a great citizen and sheriff for our county. My concerns are these: if we take action on this, we can't bind a future board. So once they start construction of the jail, whoever seated then, when it's completed, could readdress it. If you would make it your resolution as part of a suggestion that be considered, I'm happy to support it, because I personally think it's a wonderful idea, but I think to try to bind a future board is kind of the same thing I said when I was talking about Mr. Saunders and Mr. Harville. You know, it's just it's kind of a wish that we hope they will follow. So, I mean, I think it's a great candidate for that purpose.
Well,
I would hope they would.
As far as the name
but the whole board could be flipped by that time.
Oh, it can be. So I don't see any harm with going ahead and passing this resolution that we recommend that the facility once, I would say even once the construction starts, even on paper, that it be referred to as the Taylor E. McGregor Senior Adult Detention Center. So that's my motion. Still looking for that second.
Mr. Chairman, with all due respect, you know, I remember Mr. McGregor and appreciate and respect him, but I think if this board sits and approves this motion, we are kind of narrowing the field and limiting the opportunity and not really hearing from the citizenry in terms of what they might want to have some input. And for that reason, I'm going to move to table that motion.
Could we table it and let's send it to our naming committee?
Yeah.
And give a chance?
It's already been there.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
I didn't know the naming committee had a meeting. I wasn't informed. And if you all had a meeting, I should have been informed and had an opportunity to attend.
I would have.
So for that reason, I'm going to second your motion.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
I call for the question. I call for question, please.
Okay, so we have a motion
To table.
to table, and that's a substitute motion, so that needs to be addressed first. And I also want to clarify something, Kaylin, I'm not aware that we've had a naming committee
No, sir,
meeting.
not a meeting.
And I remind this board, I think you're headed down the right track, but our naming committee, it applies to buildings that we own as well as other things. The reason why these bridges have not gone to the naming committee is that we don't own the bridges.
Right.
Those are owned by VDOT. And it says that if you're going to name it for somebody, that person has to be deceased for 5 years, and then you have to take it to the naming committee, and then they have to seek input, and I quote here, the committee will seek comment and non-binding recommendations from appropriate applicable organizations when considering a county naming or renaming requests. The committee will will memorialize the comments received and make a recommendation to the full board for potential action. So if you want to take that path, that is an option too. But the matter of hand, we have to address the substitute motion to table the action tonight. That's the first thing we have to dispose of tonight. We have a motion to table. Do we have a second is the issue?
Yeah, Mr. Warren made the motion to table. I will second that
Okay.
motion.
Mr. Tucker made the
Mr. Tucker made that motion.
I second.
Warren second.
Mr. Tucker made the motion.
All righty. Without any further discussion, go ahead and cast your
Yes. So, let me make sure I'm clear. We're tabling this motion for as of right now.
Right.
So
We are.
yes would say, yes, I'm tabling this.
Right.
So be sure.
Okay. Okay, that's been tabled, and we're down to matters from the work session. Do we have any?
We have none, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, sir. Board member reports. Tim, let me start with you on the end there.
Well, I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. First of all, Merry Christmas. Hope everyone has a prosperous new year. It's been a very eventful year this year with you being on the board. A couple of hiccups in the last couple of months, but I am pleased to report for the first time. I had just come back from my first actual checkup, and every blood normal was normal for the first time in a year. So that was a blessing among blessings. I'll tell you, you've heard people talk about cancer, but till you experience it, it's a whole new ballgame, which I know that may sound like an old shoe. But when I would go to the treatment center, you wouldn't believe the ages of people that are there. Some of them look perfectly healthy. Some of them look like you know they've been going through what they've been going through. And it's like, you know, the old saying goes, you don't know how it is till you walk in their shoes. And it was a very eye-opening experience. The commercials now for like St. Jude's, you kind of get a little bit more appreciation. I've got a daughter-in-law who's fighting cancer her second time, and she's not even 26. Great. And how blessed that she got to be able to move to the East Coast. This year has opened, like I said, a lot of opportunities. Believe it or not, it helped me calm down some this year. I used to be 200 mile an hour, now I'm probably 150 mile an hour. It did, it gave me a whole new gratefulness of health. The funny thing was, I was driving home from work. Within 2 minutes of me driving, my entire life changed. I left my office healthy, and within 2 miles of me leaving, my journey started. And that's how quick everything changed. So, and I want to say thank you to the board for being patient with me.
Amen.
I've learned a lot this year. I've learned when to talk and when not to talk. I've learned that I already knew it, but I kind of got it reinforced that I didn't know it all. I'll say that funny because I knew when I took the position I didn't know it all. And it's really been an interesting ride. Some days are cool, other days aren't. One of the cool things is getting a present. I ain't gonna lie to you. If when I get a Christmas present, I'm still a kid at heart. I am not gonna lie to you. But I do want to thank everybody. You would not believe the cards and letters that I got, phone calls. It's unbelievable the amount of mail that I got. And people I didn't even know. Churches that were praying for me. Just unbelievable. And I'm here now. And I know people that have had diagnoses like I have and they're not here. So I am blessed. I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. I thank y'all for showing support for our government, our county government. It starts at the bottom, works its way up, and showing support for our county is a big thing. If I'd have known a little bit more now, I probably wouldn't be in as big a hole as I was in. So I want to again wish everyone a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, and Lord willing, we'll see everybody next year. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The other Tim, Mr. Dudley.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You must have read my script. Everything you
Well,
said
my name
is what,
is Tim.
I got you.
My
Okay.
name is Tim.
I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. This has been a good year. It's been a tough year at times, but I'm just thankful that we're here. So glad that Tim has come from where he was to where he is now.
Fatter.
Yeah,
Fatter.
absolutely. Yeah.
One thing I have done is gain weight.
But anyway, I really appreciate Tim. Prayed for him a lot. During Christmas time and New Year's, a lot of people go through depression and different things like that. And there's some folks that you and I may know that's struggling with something right now. It could be alcohol. It could be drugs. It just could be depression. I think if we know it, we have a means to reach out to them. I think it'll be a good thing. I appreciate what Ms. Skeer said tonight. I serve one that has never lost a battle. I can promise you that. And my friend, there's some people out there tonight that's struggling during the Christmas time. And let's just lift them up. If we know somebody that doesn't have something, help them out. Let's do something for folks that are struggling. I want to thank the staff for all they do. They make our meetings. Sometimes the meetings are still get a little crazy, but if they was not involved with it, you would not believe the work that they do to get us to the point where we're at. And I want to thank them too. Thank our board members. But and I'm just going to be honest with you, the biggest person I think tonight is probably my wife for putting up with me because I go home and vent. And we talk about the subjects that goes on during the board meetings. And she has to listen to the good and the bad and the ugly and tell me when I'm wrong. And if you have a good spouse that supports you and backs you like that, praise God for them. Amen. And thank you for this time, Mr. Chairman, that I've had to speak. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Dalton.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight and all the comments. I'd like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I'd also like to remember the Anna Falls family. She was a long-time employee in the Treasurer's office that passed away this week. Think about her and her family. And again, I want to thank all the staff for everything they do. It makes our job easier. And again, I thank all the board members, and everybody have a Merry Christmas.
Thank you, sir.
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Tucker.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to echo all of the sentiments of the entire board. I want to thank the public for being here. I appreciate the Board of Supervisors and the hard work that they do, and I can only remind the public of one thing, that the entire board is just merely humans trying to do the very best that they can. Are they going to make mistakes? Are we going to make mistakes? Yes. That is what Paul talked about in Philippians chapter 3. He says, not that I have apprehended. Paul says, I've not arrived, but he says, this one thing that I have done. He says, I forget those things behind me and I press toward the mark of the high calling, which is in Christ Jesus. And at this point in the year, as we approach the Christmas season, it gives all of us an opportunity to sit back, reflect, and think about the year that we've been through. Let's see what things we can correct. It gives us an opportunity to reset for the year ahead of us. And also, I just thank everyone for their patience, the staff, and everyone that's attempted to make me look good in this position. But ultimately, let all of us be mindful of just why we celebrate Christmas in the first place, because he came to give us something that the world sincerely lacked, which was his peace. And that is my prayer for you during this season, that you would experience his peace.
Thank you, Mr. Tucker. Mr. Scares.
I don't know how to compete with that, Mr. Tucker, but first off, I just want to wish everyone a great Christmas, Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year. And I kind of hazard to mention this, but the NRA, Friends of NRA banquet is coming up in February, the 25th. And the reason I'm mentioning it now, the tables and the seats, the tickets are going fast. So if you want to attend this great event, all the money goes to supporting the shooting sports in our area and in the state. And if you want a ticket or a table package, you better get them now because they're going like hotcakes. So that's the only reason I mention it before Christmas. But again, finally, please have a safe and happy Christmas and New Year. And I hope next year is going to be better than this one. We've had a rough year. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Warren?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Pretty much everybody said everything. I hope my wife has turned the meeting off by now, because Mr. Dudley, your wife may be listening to you and
I'm stepping in.
all of that stuff. My wife was kind enough to give me a cold, so I was able to come over and cough through the meeting and all that, so I apologize to you all, and I did ask the good gentleman in the IT to cut my mic off, so at least as we're being broadcast, everybody wouldn't hear me coughing. So, but I don't have anything other than just a good common cold. That's why I was wearing my mask and all. I do want to reiterate, because we had two citizens mention it. Not trying to make an excuse. It's just the facts. We've had significant technological problems with some vendor changes and all with our email and phone service that, created significant problems during the month of November and part of December. So if anyone tried to reach me during those months and I didn't return your call, I apologize. We've gotten mine straight now. I don't know if Mr. Dudley's is straight yet or not, but if you need to talk to me or you want anything, please feel free to give me a call. Most of you already know me and have my personal emails and personal cell phones too, so I'm happy to take it at my business or on my personal cell. Again, I want to restate what's already been said. Merry Christmas to all of you, each and every one of you, and please remember the reason for the season. And I would challenge everyone here tonight to look around and be conscious of those that are less fortunate than we are, because I know most of the folks that are in the audience tonight, and we've all been blessed beyond measure, most of us, but there's a lot of people out there that haven't. And just remember the gift that we were given. So let's try to give some gifts to those that are less fortunate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. In spite of, 2022 was a great year. We collectively rebounded from the pandemic as we worked to make our county a better place to live and to work. Our new board started the year off by realigning the Fire and Rescue Commission, thus giving equal representation to each supervisor. Throughout the year, we worked hard to fund each and every fire and rescue organization. I want to personally thank all of our volunteers for their continued service and sacrifice. With the hiring of interim county administrator Clarence Mundy, he worked diligently with Kim Vanderhyde to present to this board a balanced budget with no tax increase despite the continued effects of inflation. Clarence stayed with us for the majority of the year and did a great job as he led us through many trials. We are very grateful to him for his service. Thanks to CARES and ARPA funds, we were able to purchase a variety of equipment which funded a variety of projects, along with offering bonuses to our volunteers for their service during the pandemic, as well as some employees. A big portion of the ARPA funds was obligated to the improvement and expansion of internet throughout the county, which is a work in progress, by the way. Our landfill continues to be financially stable by generating revenue to pay for its expenses and capital improvements. We opened 2 new convenience centers with a third to be open next year. We invested in the expansion and remodeling of the Gretna Library as it's being transformed into a real community center. We approved 2 water lines, which was very much needed. We named 3 separate bridges honoring Trooper Henry Harmon, Trooper Henry Brooks, and Deputy Sheriff J. Holland Thomas. May we never forget their service and sacrifice. We supported increases in funding for our Sheriff's Office to facilitate retention as well as to attract viable candidates for employment. For the second year, we supported an interim program which brought forth over 20 young individuals to work and learn, which was such a tremendous benefit to our county. We saw the expansion of Axor area farms, and we welcomed Tyson Foods, Walraven, MEP, Stanton River Plastics, Tradesman Trucking, and Commonwealth Home Care to our county, just to name a few. The national interest of our mega park continues to grow as we just barely lost the Hyundai plant to a place called Savannah, Georgia. But don't worry, there are plenty of other corporations equally interested in becoming part of our county. Our pet center continues to provide humane services and quality of life for our 4-legged friends. The staff there provides such a wonderful service to pets and those who are looking for a fur-covered companion. We invested in Danville, Pittsylvania Community Services, Danville Community College, and Danville, Pittsylvania County Chamber of Commerce through its Rev Up program designed to kickstart new businesses throughout the county. We presented many resolutions remembering and honoring citizens, from the late Supervisors F.A. Cates and Corey Harville to the late Sheriff Harold Plaster to baseball star Joe Manaply and race driver Timothy Peters, to the Tunstall High School basketball and now volleyball teams, just to name a few. And sadly, we had to say goodbye to our colleague Jesse Barksdale, who resigned from our board due to personal reasons. His seat was subsequently filled by our newest colleague, Mr. Robert Tucker, and we're very fortunate to have you. In closing, I'm very thankful for the opportunity that I've had to serve as the chairman of this board, as well as the chairman of RIFRA, which is the Regional Industrial Facilities Authority. Personally, I think collectively, we've accomplished a great deal this year. I want to wish each and every one of you a Merry Christmas, and I look forward to great things happening in 2023. County Administrator reports. Mr. Hunt.
Yes, I'll be brief. Yesterday was my 90th day as the interim county administrator. And what I've learned during this time, and I've learned a great deal, is that I cannot do this without my great staff. I am not a micromanager. A lot of my staff has stepped up during this time, and I'm very grateful for them. A lot of them are here tonight. I also am grateful for the board for their faith and commitment and belief in me. And despite some zaniness this year, we did accomplish a lot. And I'm grateful for the board and this county, and I'm grateful for everyone that I get to interact with in this county. And I wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Arnold, do you have anything?
I'm just going to say Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and glad to be part of this organization.
And I do want to echo how grateful we are to this wonderful staff and all the hard work that you do to make things happen. So having said that, without objection, I adjourn this meeting. Y'all have a great Christmas. Thank you.